Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra Vasquez. I am a senior content marketing specialist at G2, and this is Industry Insights. Today, I am joined by Charlie Riley, the head of marketing at OneScreen.ai, a company accelerating the growth of real-world advertising. Hi, Charlie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Amazing. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you today about your experience in the out-of-home advertising industry and how the new digital age is really shaking it up. But before we jump in too deep, I'd love to learn just a little bit more about you. So please tell us a little bit about your role as the head of marketing at OneScreen.ai and what brought you there.
Yeah, thanks. So I joined a few months ago as the first head of marketing, and it's exciting. And what brought me here is that we get to sell marketing services to marketers. So I've sat in the seat before of who we're trying to talk to. I've gone through the pains of trying to make sure you're working with sales to find as many right prospects as possible. So. We offer a great solution that's a mix of science and art, where between the planning and the measurement we do around out-of-home advertising, it's combined with great storytelling because it's a visual canvas that across billboards, transit ads, mobile trucks, you name it, street team and field marketing execution. So it gives a really great canvas for marketers to tell a story. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to bring back the experiences I've had with a company that sells that to other marketers.
Great, perfect. So let's just get right into the nitty-gritty of the conversation, which is really going to surround your expertise of out-of-home or OOH advertising. So you've mentioned yourself that there are a lot of common misperceptions about OOH advertising. What do you think are the biggest myths or misunderstandings when it comes to that channel, and how do you personally like to address those in your marketing efforts?
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of marketers since I joined, and there's been a couple trends that have stood out of maybe misperceptions, which are great opportunities for us, and it's really enlightening. But I think the biggest one is that out of home can't be measured, and I think when someone thinks of out of home, they think of the billboards you see on the side of a throughway or freeway, and those can actually be measured. We measure those for customers all the time by utilizing mobile IDs, which are utilized by other categories. But we're able to see anonymously who's had access to an ad, and then narrow down even more by demographics to be able to share that with an advertiser to do retargeting to them after the fact. So that's one way we can do it. There's other ways you can do it from a control group who's been exposed to ads versus those who haven't, and we're able to show lift on websites. So in the same way that marketers are used to seeing measurement and attribution from digital channels, we can do a lot of the same things with out of home, and we actually combine those very well with digital campaigns that are already happening. So I think that's one of the another misperception is maybe that this has to be a big campaign or it's going to cost a lot. And there's a lot of variables to that. I think we've seen campaigns that are very or similar to maybe a paid search campaign. It really depends. There's a lot of variables that go into how long you want to run a campaign, but there are options for a wide range of budgets. And then I think the other misperception that we've seen is that for those who have never done out of home before, they just may not be aware of all the different channels or executions that could be done through out of home. Again, someone might think of a billboard as really the only option there, but we can wrap cars that are part of an ABM program. We've wrapped coffee trucks that we've used for sort of street team activation like executions, but that gives a captive audience with your team, with prospects that you're trying to talk to. There's digital out of home within signage within restaurants, bars. There's transit ads. There's a whole range of options that someone could take advantage of. And so that's really what we do is we figure out what their overall goals are from a marketing standpoint, plan around those, and then we can measure back to that.
Amazing. Yeah. And you mentioned ABM strategies and how you guys kind of move your strategies to help companies with that. And I think a lot of marketers might not think of out-of-home advertising as part of their account-based marketing strategy. So why do you believe it is a valuable channel for targeting high-value accounts?
It really is. I think a lot of what we've seen is that they have digital ad fatigue right now. So we are inundated with emails, we are inundated with digital ads. You're on your phone all the time. You sort of zone out. And what's a nice added mix to an overall ABM category or strategy is the always on real life in-person marketing. And that's through out of home advertising. And so what we can do if someone has a target account list, say they have their top 50 clients that they really or prospects that they really want to get in front of, we're able to map that out. We're able to look to see where office locations are, where traffic patterns may be from executives, where people spend time in the real world, and we're able to make a plan to provide the exposure and to the inventory around where those places are. So that could include large billboards. That could include transit ads. That could include some bulletin ads around a location that might be a headquarters. That could include a mobile truck that's parked right outside of the headquarters of their main prospect with creative that rotates or specifically talks to them. And that's all measurable. We can measure that as well. So to think of out of home as an execution that should be part of that overall ABM mix, it's not, we don't expect it to away from a digital spend. We expect it to complement that. And we can really narrow in on ads that can't be turned off, you can't, you can't opt out of what we do. Like it's visible and it's seen every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to dive in even more on what you mentioned about trackability, measurability. And I think anybody could look at out-of-home advertising and see that a big challenge is probably measuring the impact. So can you talk a little bit about how like advancements in technology have made it more measurable and trackable for companies like yours?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of great ways that someone can measure, and it really depends on what their ROI is or what their overall marketing goals are. So, for example, with billboards, we can geo-fence a location that we can identify who might have seen those ads, and then deliver a list that they could retarget to, an anonymous list, but they could retarget to those that were exposed within their core audience, not just the overall population that might have driven by an ad but those that we can identify within their demographics. Same thing goes for a lot of B2B companies will use out of home as an execution to extend their brand at conferences. We're able to geo fence a location and provide retargeting after the fact. But we're able to do that also with, say, if you're a D2C company or a B2B company, usually their conversion is direct sales or foot traffic to a location. And we can narrow in based on geography and based on who was exposed to those ads over a campaign. We can cookie a site and show conversion lift. So we can show if all the way through to close, either they've sold something or closed one business that they've acquired. We can show a lift there and show attribution back to each individual ad and who was exposed to that. So we can get really granular. It really depends on what their goals are. But we can show lift, we can show brand recall lift. We can, if it's a mobile truck, if they're using QR codes as a call to action, we can track off of that as well. So there's a couple ways that we can do it through out of home, but it is measurable and it's something that I think it's one of those things when you talk about it with marketers, they want to learn more because they maybe just don't understand how that there's correlation to the same way that they might be tracking a paid search campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think I could speak for a lot of marketers when I say that out-of-home advertising seems to be one of the only traditional ad mediums that's still actively growing. What do you think is driving this growth, and how do companies like OneScreen.ai capitalize on that momentum?
We're seeing a lot of marketers come to us for a first time that have never used out of home, partially because the types of the people that they're talking to, their prospects, their audience, they're suffering from digital ad fatigue. They're just inundated with too much on their mobile phone, too many emails, AI written content that you can just see through. Not to say all of that's bad, but brands are looking for different alternatives to add to the media mix. They're not going to move their entire media budget to out of home, but it's a complement to all their digital channels. we've seen campaigns that, in conjunction with a paid search campaign, there's been a 15% lift in attribution towards success around those campaigns. So it complements digital channels very nicely. And the reason why is the ads are always on. You're in a different mode of thinking when you're driving, when you're in transit, when you're at a conference. So it's one of those things where you're seeing the brand in a different execution in a different way in the real world that just complements anything that's been done digitally. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of brands, both B2B and B2C, utilize out of home. And why they maybe come to us is we're able to help them if they, especially if they've never done it before, plan where they might want to be. We help them figure out the executions. We figure out the right locations, the right mix. Sometimes they might say, "Hey, this billboard would be great," or "We want to be in this city," where we might be able to tell them, "You actually have a higher concentration of prospects that are in this city, and we can run a campaign for even longer there because it's a second tier city." So we do a lot of that planning, and then we're able to help them with the measurement on that. So that's why it's been really great to see marketers that have maybe never dabbled in out of home before see that as a viable channel to tell their story.
Yeah, that's great. And for, for those people that you're talking to that have never dabbled in that area, and maybe even are pretty skeptical of its value, and with how this age is really dominated by digital ads, and you've touched on a couple, but I'd love for you to get even more specific. Like, what advantages do you see that out-of-home advertising offers that digital ad cannot?
Yeah, I think for some brands, if they're a challenger brand and nobody else in their category is using out of home, it's a competitive advantage because they're gonna look bigger than maybe some of their competitors are. They have a different medium to play with. So that's one way that we've seen success with companies that maybe been skeptical or never tried out of home before. Also, like I said, it's the real world. People are just inundated on their phones and they just zone out where you can't turn out of home ads off. You're going to see them, even if it's subconscious brand recall. That exposure goes into that overall mix or that overall pot of how many times someone needs to see a brand so they think of you as the primary as their primary resource. So yeah, we're seeing brands utilize it for. It's a great way to tell a story when you're doing a brand refresh. It's a great way for a product launch to show that in a very wide medium. We've seen success with customers that have used it for customer appreciation campaigns. They show their customers on ads in New York City or wherever that might be, and they get great like social proof out of that. Their people are taking photos of that. They're sharing that on social, so they're bringing it back to digital. So I think we've got plenty of use cases that have shown results for campaigns that have shown lift, that have driven results from sales to just brand recall. So the proof's in the pudding. We've done that for B2B and B2C brands. I think it's one of those things where it can be overwhelming to start on your own. It's good to work with experts. It's the same thing. They may not, they're not going to go out and probably run a huge paid search campaign without talking to someone that maybe that's what they really focus in on. So we're finding success with companies that see us and our expertise and where to find opportunities, not just to try to sell them a bunch of billboards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, touching on like billboards and these very wide scale out of home advertising, which is what usually people might think of when they think of this type of advertising. And I think you could agree that that might be a little bit daunting for smaller companies. So how are these types of ads made more accessible for like small and medium sized businesses?
Yeah, out of home there's options for every type of company. And yes, to do a massive campaign across the 10 top major markets, there's a certain level of company that could probably afford that and or have the range to do that in terms of who they're trying to talk to and such. That's the nice thing about out of home. There's a wide range of inventory. So some people might not think of some field marketing executions like the example I shared around wrapping a coffee truck or doing a street team at an event or even just around maybe a time sensitive event. We did something like that for a brand in New York City around Sleep Week, and their product aligned very nicely to that. We saw, 200% plus lift in brand recall and intent to buy and actually conversion to buy their product. So that was an execution that was a short time frame. We see others that want to do larger, always on brand campaigns, which is very similar to what you do with paid search. You don't just turn that on and off every other week. So there are options for different, if your total addressable market's pretty narrow, but you do a lot of conferences, there's executions there to have a bigger story there, to look bigger, to kind of maybe do some ambush marketing with if you're not a main sponsor, but you can show up with an out-of-home execution and people are going to think you're a sponsor. So there's different ways that out-of-home fits. It's not going to fit every budget, but there are a lot of executions that someone could think about or utilize. And it's something different to think about. And so even if they get some ideas, maybe as they grow, maybe as they do their next raise, then it becomes more of a really good channel that they should consider for their marketing mix.
Amazing. Yeah, I think it's really important to highlight those ways that different size companies can utilize this tactic. And closing it out, I would love to touch on a little bit more of a forward-thinking question. What trends do you see shaping the future of out-of-home advertising, and how are you positioning yourself to stay ahead of them?
Yeah, I think the biggest trend that we're probably seeing is going to be measurement, where marketers are used to having to show measurement, having to show data and statistics around every other channel. And out of home really shouldn't be different to that. And we're positioned in a great way for that because we do provide measurement. We're able to provide some insight into who might have seen those ads, who we're able to provide retargeting opportunities for them, who was exposed to their ads. We're able to track efficiency of campaigns. So we're already doing some of that, and I think some of the product opportunities we'll have as we build that out to integrate with CRMs, integrate with systems that where someone wants to see their data. We're moving in that direction where it'll be synonymous with how they see data from other types of campaigns. So that's one thing. I think the next thing is just going to be how out of home just fits in with digital channels and with that sort of that integration. I know AI is becoming, it's in every category in every industry. We're seeing success with being able to help. We use a tool that helps guide the creative. And is the creative going to make an impact, or do you need to make changes to that? Are you using too many words on your billboard? Should your logo be on the right-hand side versus the left, and how would people interpret that? So there is there's some evolving technology that's being used in what's considered an old school industry. But when you think about the evolution of out of home, you've got digital out of home that could be like the creative can be rotated quickly. You have just a wide range of inventory options to think about. And so, yeah, this is what we focus in on. We don't do every other type of channel. This is what we're hopefully really good at. We think we're really good at. So, we're trying to help marketers measure as best as possible. We're trying to help them build plans and handhold them so that they don't have to be an out-of-home expert. I think that's another thing that as the channels evolve, it is complicated to some degree for someone who's never done out of home to just jump in. And so we can handhold and build the right plans for them so they are being exposed to the right audiences. So we'll see more and more of that. But yeah, measurement's the big piece I think that we've been in front of for a little while, and we're going to continue to get better at.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Well, that wraps up this edition of Industry Insights with OneScreen.ai's head of marketing, Charlie Riley. For more industry insights content like this, please visit our blog, learn.g2.com/tag/industry-insights. See you all next time, and thank you so much again, Charlie.
Thanks for having me. This has been great.